Thank you, guys. Good morning. I get to ascend. Wow. Thank you for the little baby step, Nick. I appreciate it. So good morning and happy first Sunday of June. Summer is here. Hooray. And thank you so much for choosing to be here this morning. There are a lot of places you could be and things you could do, but you chose to come here and be in this community, and we really appreciate that. Now, I'm so excited about being here to share that wonderful idea about unity. And we're going to talk about unity in a lot of different ways this morning that I hope will resonate with you. Now, those of you who might be familiar with the unity tradition history, you might recall that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who were the founders, they studied all different religions as they were seeking truth at the end of the 1800s. It's said that in 1891, Charles was in prayer and was inspired to call their new spiritual magazine Unity, because the Fillmores had taken the best of many religions they studied, and they had always emphasized that all religious orders should work together for the constant pursuit of oneness with God. Now, that word oneness, I think, defines the idea of unity for me pretty much as any word can. Webster's dictionary gives the definition in similar ways for both of those words, meaning sameness, a singleness in mind and purpose and feeling. The concept of oneness is a prominent theme in the unity spiritual practice, and one that's evidenced by our 5 unity principles, those basic spiritual truths that we celebrate both in unity and in New Thought. It starts, of course, right at the top with God. And our first principle is there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good. Number 2, we all have a spark of God, of divinity in us, and therefore we are all inherently good. Number 3, we create our experiences by our thinking. And number 4, prayer is our creative thinking that heightens our connection with God. It's communion with Spirit, a common union, a oneness that brings about wisdom and healing, prosperity, and everything good. And here, number 5 is where our responsibility comes in, our spiritual commitment. Knowing and understanding this truth are not enough. We must also live the truth that we know. Now just think about that for a second. When I understand that God is in me and all around me and in everybody else, the only good and the only presence in power, well, that means there's no other choices. Nothing for any of us to be afraid of. If God is only good and unconditional love, what in the world do we have to fear? When we make the creative discovery of our unity with all life, Eric Butterworth said, we have complete security in the world, along with a complete understanding for and love of all people. Now, one of the clearest interpretations of unity and oneness is found in the works of H. Emily Cady. Dr. Cady was a greatly admired contemporary of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. She was one of the first women physicians. She believed and studied in Christian Science and was a New Thought philosopher. She was initially hired to write an article or two for the Fillmore's new magazine. Well, Dr. Cady went on to write Lessons in Truth, which was the first book published by Unity, and she is still taught today. Every initiation class into any unity around the world pretty much uses Lessons in Truth because she has such clarity of thought and brings such complex ideas into very simple alignment. I wanted to use a little bit that she wrote for How I Used Truth that talks directly to the answer in question, how are we one with God and with each other? She writes, we are one with God because He created us out of Himself. We are one with each other because we share the same Father. Now that sounds pretty logical, doesn't it, to our scientific mind? We are one with God because we are created in His image and after His likeness. We are one with each other because the same Spirit of God is in each one of us. Jesus taught us about that oneness when He taught us to pray, Our Father. He claimed for us the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. And here we go a little deeper. That's back to our spiritual commitment and our responsibility. While it's true, Dr. Katie says, that we are always one with God through our divine origin, we are consciously one with God only when we recognize and accept our own divinity and the divinity of all men and women. This understanding enables us to see the good present in spite of appearances otherwise. To understand our oneness with others means that we no longer expect them to do the things according to our standard, for it is an inner oneness that we recognize. Now that's a complicated sentence. To understand our oneness with others means we no longer expect them to do things according to our standard. Now wait a minute. I wasn't crazy about that. That means I have to put down my urges to judge, to criticize my brothers and sisters. Well, I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands if I do that. And if that sounds a little bit funny, it is the truth with a capital T. When I realize I have to purge my adoration of my own opinion, what in the world am I going to use to fill that void? Well, Eric Butterworth in Discover the Power Within You offers us the practice of namaste and namaskar. Namaste is an ancient Sanskrit word that essentially means the divine in me honors the divine in you. And that sounds like a really sweet, lovely thing to say, but this practice comes with some expectations too. We have to understand that we are one with God, that we see God in all people, and we have to act accordingly. Whew. Mr. Butterworth enhances that practice with a daily blessing called the Namaskar blessing, and I made some copies of that. If you want one, you can pick one up after the service. I believe it's a really important first step in honoring the divine in ourselves and setting a powerful intention for us every day. Listen to this. I salute the divinity in myself. I am strong and able. I can do all that I need to do this day. My mind is alert, my body vital and healthy, and my way will be strewn with golden opportunities. No matter what this day will bring to me, there is that in me that is great enough to meet it, overcome it, and be blessed by it. Namaskar. Wow. Doesn't that make you feel like you could just get out in the world and do everything today? Whoa. I love that, and I have it right up by my bathroom mirror. While it really won't eliminate my personal affection for chatter and judging others, it sure helps me to set a little higher mark to operate my day by. Now, many of you know that I really enjoy relating the scientific to the spiritual, and last week I came across a wonderful article in Psychology Today where I discovered that the word unity, completely separate from religious philosophy, is used in a psychological way, a context that refers to our human relations between individuals and other people. And according to a recent study by the American Psychological Association, people who believe in oneness, the idea that everything in the world is connected and interdependent, appear to have greater life satisfaction than those who don't, regardless of whether they belong to a religion or not. Now that sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Oneness believers share a universal concern for the welfare of animals, for the state of the environment, and for the struggles of human beings beyond their immediate friends and family. Now, while the researchers caution us against thinking that the belief in oneness causes these qualities, it sure is fun to think about how much better the world might be if we could get a few more people to have that kind of an expansive view. The American news website Vox recently considered the possibility that oneness is an idea that might heal the deep political rift that currently divides our country. Commentator Sean Illing writes, "Tribalism, showing a strong loyalty for one's own tribe or social group, feels like a problem that might run so deep it's clear we don't really know what to do about it. But the research above points us to something like a solution, namely getting more people to believe that we are one. Author Garrett D'Amour is the founder and chairman of a group called the Virtues Project Association. It's a little global initiative in Belgium that is inspiring people around the world to practice high moral values. Mr. D'Amour wants to spark a revolution of kindness, justice, and integrity in our planet. Now, he initially writes to encourage parents to teach their children what he calls the virtues of unity. But I think these are applicable to people of all ages as we take it out into the world. And the first virtue to consider is, naturally, love, that powerful emotion that binds all of us together. While love has many definitions, if we go all the way back to the Aristotle definition, love is the acceptance, even the appreciation of the differences between people. Coincidentally, the unity spiritual practice, love is one of our 12 powers, those 12 spiritual faculties that everyone is born with. Love is the harmonizing and constructive power that sees good everywhere and in everyone. God is love. And as Mr. Butterworth tells us, if we power up, pray up our day with our first knowing of our divinity, then we are love in action too. So as we have come to live today in a really globalized world, in the name of love, we must accept and appreciate all the people who enter our lives. The next virtue is care. And here we're encouraged to care about our environment. From the tiniest act of picking up bits of litter when you go to the beach, to learning more about global warming and perhaps advocating for ways to stop that. Even from repurposing items that we use every day, we are showing our care for the environment and for the amazing planet that we live on. Now, the third virtue I found particularly interesting, it's the virtue of wisdom. Mr. D'Amour says that we must use our wisdom to live in unity with time. Isn't that a curious phrase? That really piqued my interest. Live in unity with time. And what he means by that is that we must learn from our history to provide for the present. The use of our past to inform our future is the most practical when we share and practice our wisdom. Now, in unity spiritual practice, our powers of love and wisdom must be used hand in hand, using our God-given intellect and guided by our power of love. We can learn from our experiences and understand them in the context that is correct. This next Thursday, June 6th, many nations around the world will mark the 75th anniversary of D-Day. I heard a commentator say this week that it is possibly the last major anniversary of D-Day veterans that they will be able to be present to this life-changing event. They will be able to bear witness, most likely only in this last year. It certainly gave me something to think about, imagining how we, as a people, as a generation, will use our wisdom to bear witness to what we see in the world today and recognize because of our wisdom from the past. And lastly, we have the virtue of self-respect. This is our sense of pride and confidence in ourselves and feeling that we are always behaving with honor and dignity. Well, it seems like applying that namaskar blessing early in the day would be a great way to jumpstart our self-esteem, starting each morning affirming our good, our divinity, and making our commitment to be good and do good and thrive in our daily lives. So now, how do we use all these virtues in our lives and share them? Well, first of all, they suggest that we become role models. When I was a kid, I used to hate it when my mother would say, you know, those young kids are watching what you do. Down south we say, oh, they're going to take after you. Well, I didn't want them to take after me necessarily, but it was a heads up that I needed to modify my behavior and the way that I worked with those kids when I babysat them. It kind of reminds me of the phenomenon we see sometimes when we make significant changes in our lives. Many times we don't even have to tell people about the changes we've made because they begin to see them. When they notice that you're happier, maybe have a little more zip in your step, and they get curious and they want to find out what's up with you. Your assignment this week is to fearlessly model your own brand of love and caring and self-respect, and just see who notices. Number 2 is kind of interesting. It's storytelling, and that's sharing our knowledge and wisdom between generations. Now, I really remember how boring it was as a young person to have to sit and listen to the old folks go on and on about what happened back in the day. But if you have ever had the chance to share a story at a family reunion with the little tiny kids about what a rascal their mama was when she was 7 years old, oh, they love that. Those kind of things bring families together, and kids adore that kind of personal history, the connection, that sense of oneness from one generation to the next. And here's a really fun way to promote our oneness and our unity, and that's traveling. Traveling means that we leave our daily routines to broaden our horizons. When we leave our comfort zone, we always meet new people, and we have the chance to try and understand them and accept their ways of life. Now, even if you don't quite have the cash to make that around-the-world cruise today, you can take a day trip, hop on the train, and come into the city for a great big dose of diversity, or take a little trip and go upstate. Chances are good you're going to meet some people and make a connection with something wonderful and new and exciting. And frequently an added advantage to traveling is getting immersed in nature. We're a part of nature, and that's why natural experiences affect us in such a profound way. So many of my greatest travel adventures were totally connected to nature. Seeing a whale breach for the first time in the ocean, driving into Yosemite Valley took my breath away. Seeing a herd of elephants come down to drink at a river in Kenya, wow. Those experiences, big and small, connect all of us to our oneness. Even caring for our beautiful gardens, and even taking a look and loving our houseplants and our pets. So many connections and blessings are right there within reach every day, and all we have to do is be aware and appreciate them. And finally, have a party. Celebrate. I know this group is great for having parties. This is something you really know how to do. Holidays and parties bring us together as a community, and they connect us in time and space and honor the things that transcend us. Back in April, Unity of New York celebrated its 20th year of operation, and we had a blowout birthday party. Oh, we had cake and candles and music and dancing, and one of our really talented guys put together a video with highlights from the last 2 decades of music and images and talks together. We cried and laughed and reminisced and had the best time. It was a real community builder. So I hope you have your marching orders this morning. I believe it's our time to refocus on our sense of unity with each other as we strive to model our own virtues, our own moral excellence. Our world, I believe, is ready to turn the tide and create change for us all as we fill it with connection and love and wisdom and self-respect. As we close out this morning, I want to share with you a quote from a very wise American historian, Howard Zinn. This is a reminder not to be overwhelmed by the task as we see it today. He writes, "We don't have to engage in grand, heroic actions to participate in the process of change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world." And so it is. Amen. Thank you, guys.